author and keynote speaker Amanda Lea Kaiser, who will share new insights about member engagement with us. Amanda spent the last 25 years studying engagement. First, consumer engagement while managing the Crayola brand. How fun. Next, business-to-business engagement in advertising, and most recently, member engagement in the association industry, which we all appreciate. To get a deep understanding of the elements that drive real engagement, Amanda personally conducted 477 in-depth qualitative member interviews. She talked with university presidents, engineers, economics, I can't even say that word, economists, NASA rocket scientists, also rock scientists, journalists, CEOs, CFOs, dentists, just to name a few. Now, these people may not seem like they have much in common, but they absolutely agree on what engagement is and what it isn't. So using the results of her research, Amanda wrote a book called Elevating Engagement: Uncommon Strategies for Creating a Thriving Member Community. There it is, beautiful cover. We are going to play with key ideas from this research and the book today. Here you go, Amanda, take it away.
Awesome, Amy. Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. I am thrilled to be here. And we're just going to dive right in. And I've got a question for you right away. So it's funny because Zoom webinar toggles the chat immediately when you come in. It says to host panelists. I don't know why you would want to just talk to me and Amy. What you want to do is you want to talk to everybody. So when you go down to 2, where you type in your message, 2:, select everyone, not just host and panelists, because I want you to see what everybody's saying and you want to see what everybody's saying. Everybody wants to see what you're saying. So my first question for you to answer in the chat right now is, what trait do you value most in your coworkers right now? What trait do you value most in your coworkers? Now, if you are a one-man band or a one-person band or a one-woman band like me, then what trait do you value in your best vendor, partner, board contact? And I'll give you my example. So I've got this business partner she's just very positive, and her positive outlook is super contagious. So I'm going to put positivity in there. And so now feel free to just, we've got a lot of participants today. I'm so excited. There's over 100 of you here on the call with me today, me and Amy. And so just take a second and start scrolling up and down. And it's great to see where the duplicates are. I see honesty. Oh, Julie, you're my thought twin. Positivity. Collaboration, cooperation, teamwork, reliability. Jasmine, yes, reliability. And Ashley said reliability, responsiveness, willingness, dependability, team player, somebody that's good with time management, collaboration. Let's see, dedication and a positive attitude. Yeah, Teresa. Responsiveness, good communication, good collaboration. And I'm seeing some duplicates, which is really great. We're kind of honing in on a lot of the same skills. Ooh, James said cohesiveness. That's interesting. James, if you want to elaborate on that, I'd love to hear more. Angie said there's just 2 of us in the office and we have a very similar work ethic, so we work well together. That does work well. Kindness, says Christine, resourcefulness, involvement, follow up. There's some really good stuff here. Marie says puts people first. I love that. Helpfulness, respect. Okay, so there's some really great words here. And I know you've been scrolling up and down the list and I'm soaking it in. I hope you're soaking it in as well. And when I look at this very, very nice long list, I can't help but notice that Michael just wrote in making our members shine. He likes the skills that other people have that make our members shine. And that was just too good to not call out. So when I look at all of these skills, these behaviors, these traits, it occurs to me that there's so many things to learn from the people around us. And that's really what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be sharing and learning from each other. And I want you to feel free to ask questions in the chat. Ask questions of me, ask questions of each other. I want you to feel free to share what's working for you. If you see somebody else ask a question in the chat, even if it's for me, feel free to jump in and answer it if you've got an example or a point of view that you think would be helpful. I want to make this as collaborative of a learning experience as we possibly can. Now, I'm going to be asking you lots of questions today. And I want you to know that for today, for this hour, there are no wrong answers in the chat. We all have different types of members. We have different types of member needs. They have different types of preferences. And so there's no wrong answers, because what might work perfectly for your members won't work for somebody else. And what works really well for somebody else might not work for you. Or you might find lots of really exciting ideas from all of your peers. So no wrong answers today. Now, my guess is you're here because you would like more of your members, your attendees, your volunteers, your sponsors, and especially the attention of your new members. And so my plan for our next 50 minutes is to share, demonstrate, and really get us playing with lots and lots of attention-getting ideas. And wherever I can, I'm going to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain here and there to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So here is the first peek behind the curtain. The question I just asked you about your co-worker traits is an icebreaker question, an icebreaker question. Here we are, we're in the first 10 minutes and my tongue's already tied. Okay, so I am a big believer in the power of icebreaker questions, because when they're done right, they can draw people out of their world into the space that you've created for them. And icebreakers are really great for capturing somebody's attention. Now, icebreakers, in my opinion, are not just for events. They're very, very multifunctional. You can use them to start a conversation in your online community. You can use them to start a conversation in the comments of a social media post or the comments in an article. And of course, you can always use them in events. You can use them like I did to open, kind of set the tone and the expectation that we're going to participate here today. Or you can use them throughout an event to re-energize people. Now, over the years, I've collected what I call, in my book, I wrote this in my book, I've collected what I call the greatest icebreakers of all time list. And it's on, if you happen to have my book, it's on page 71. And we're going to do my favoritist of all of the greatest icebreakers of all time. We're going to do my very favorite right now. And I said favoritist, and I don't think that's actually a word, but it is now, and you know what I mean. So let me drop that into the chat so we can all play with this. So the question for you to answer right now is, would you rather be a dragon, or would you rather have a dragon, and why? Would you rather be a dragon, or would you rather have a dragon, and why? So what would you rather be? Dragon or have a dragon, and why? If you haven't chatted yet, make sure that under 2 you've selected everyone, so that we can see that. Everybody can see what you're saying. You can see what everybody's saying. And I'm gonna take a quick look through some of these. So let's see. It looks like the votes are mixed. Have one, be one. Let's see. Have a dragon. I only want to use that level of force when needed. Cindy says have one. Susie says have a dragon for protection. Jasmine says have a dragon. Backup is always nice. Chris says have a dragon to be the ultimate party trick. Absolutely. You could toast everybody's marshmallows that way, right? Right, Chris? Have one. Let's see. Have a dragon, says Kyle, because you can train it to help you be more effective. And Rachel says, I want to be able to fly around. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Have one so that I could introduce that a dragon isn't a horrible, scary animal. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got lots of really great ideas. Let's see. Have one. I need some control and train. Be one because I could probably not afford to feed it. Absolutely. Who said that? Lisa said that. Okay, so there's some really good stuff here. You can, scroll up and down. I love, there's so many ways that you can go with icebreakers. You can come up with an icebreaker that is just fun and lighthearted and help set the tone. Or you can select an icebreaker that introduces the topic of what you're going to be talking about today. Now, we're going to be talking about grabbing attention today. We're going to be talking about member engagement today. I didn't necessarily use one of those icebreakers. Sometimes it's just fun to use something fun and lighthearted. And this particular icebreaker, which you are more than happy to steal from me because I stole it from somebody else, again, is one of my favorites. So this particular question comes from Playmeo. I'm going to drop that in the chat, and I'm going to give you as many resources as I can today. Playmeo is an online database, and it's full of team building and energizing and learning activities. And they have a paid subscription model, but they also have stuff for free. So I recommend you go check them out, Playmeo. And if you're looking for an icebreaker generator, because sometimes it's hard to just come up with an icebreaker, a new icebreaker each time you gather your members, especially if you're a chamber and you're gathering members together really, really frequently. There's lots of icebreaker generators, but this one is Check-In. I really like some of theirs. Okay, so we're going to be using chat a lot today, and you might want to go ahead and do some finger exercises, some stretching, and get your typing fingers all limbered up and ready to go. Now, we've come together to talk about attention, and attention is one element of member engagement. And one of the questions that's been clinking around in my brain as I was preparing for today's chat was, what the heck is engagement anyway? I feel like there's a lot of definitions of engagement out there. And what I want to do is I want to start giving us a common language around engagement and get us thinking about what engagement really is, especially from our members' point of view. So I've got some questions queued up to ask you that will help us hone in on what engagement is. And I'm going to use my friends at Mentimeter to help us out with this. But before you engage in answering the question, what I'd like for you to do is I want you to think about a community that you belong to. It can be a professional community like an association, chamber, society, or online forum, or it can be a community in your personal life, like a book club, a hobby group, your neighborhood, or even maybe a Tuesday night yoga class. And I want you to think of, as you're thinking about all of the places where you belong, I want you to pick one of those communities, professional or personal, that you feel the most engaged with. You're really engaged with this community. And we're going to use Mentimeter to answer this question. Now, there's a couple of ways for you to access Mentimeter. You can click into the link that I just put into the chat, the menti.com link, or you can type in another tab in your browser, menti.com, and then you enter the code 87585107, or you can grab your phone, grab your QR code reader, and then you can go ahead and scan that QR code. And go ahead and start answering the question there. So what you should come up with is a page that kind of looks like that. And you can type in one word, type in 2 words, type in 3 words, and go ahead and hit submit. And if you want, you can do it again and go ahead and hit submit. Now, keep this browser window open. And because we're going to come back to Mentimeter a couple of times. So if you've got it in your phone, if you've got another tab in your browser, either way, just keep it open because we're going to keep coming back here. And I don't know, there's the geek in me is watching your word cloud manifest. And I think that is so much fun. So we've got about way over 100 people on the call. About 47 people have participated so far, which is fabulous. If you are having any tech problems at all, please let me know in the chat. I really want to know and want to make sure that everybody can access this. There's 3 ways. Let me go ahead and drop the link into the chat again. You can hit the link in the chat. You can try it on your phone with the QR code. You can type in menti.com and enter the code. Let's see, so 875-87105. And now it looks like we've got about 75 people who have participated, which is great. That's most of you. And you can just, I'll keep this up. You can keep the ideas coming in. So I'm just going to look at some of the big words that are coming up here. So what does being engaged feel like? It feels comfortable. It feels like you're included. There's community, connected, excited, belong. I like excited, belonging, communication, welcoming, value. It's fun. You feel heard. You feel valued. You're active, involved. There's lots of interaction. Ooh, a couple of people said the word family. This is something that I hear from the research all the time. When really engaged members talk about being engaged in their chamber or their association, one of the things they might say is, this is my intellectual home, or this is my professional family. And I've always felt those terms were just so lovely. So we've made this really great word cloud here. Feel free if you want to take a screen grab, for sure. I think that there's some really cool things here. And just so you know, if you use Mentimeter, what it's doing is the bigger words are the ones that are most often said. So a lot of you probably said connected, and a lot of you said belonging, which is great. Let's try another question for you right now. And so this is I want you to put yourself right now in your member's shoes. And I want you to think about your most engaged members. You can think about them as a group, or you can think about, oh yeah, there's Mary, and Mary's such an engaged member, and she's lovely and fantastic. And so, I want you to think about the engaged members that add so much to your community. And we're going to answer this question in the chat. So let me put this question in the chat. And the question is how do engaged members feel about their association? How do engaged members feel about their association? What do you think? They on fire, valued, proud, helpful. They value the work being done. They're excited. They feel warm and cozy, excited, valued, comfortable, important, ownership. They feel that the association or the chamber is important. Connected, energized, proud, comfortable. I think you're all hitting right on it. Jeffrey says, I think they're inspired by the mission. Anne says they're appreciated. Madeline says engaged. Happy to be ambassador of our organization. Yes, so all of those, yes, I think they feel all of those ways. So you can see here, we're starting to build up this kind of nice long narrative of what it feels like to be engaged. Okay, so let me ask another question of you. And to do that, I'm gonna head to the next page of Mentimeter. If you want, take a quick screen grab before I head on to my next slide. And let's head over. Okay, so the next question for you, and I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link just in case you've moved away from Mentimeter in your browser. You can re-access it, and by going to menti.com. I believe that if you are on, so what's happening now is if you're still on the last slide, it'll say the presenter has changed the slide, go to the next slide, and you can go ahead and enter it. So the question is how do engaged members act? And this is all about, what do they do? How do you know that they're engaged? How do you know when a member's engaged? What kind of behaviors are they behaving with? And again, we're going to answer this question in Mentimeter. So head back on over there, and I get to do my geeky thing of watching the word cloud manifest again. So Amanda, in response to the last question, which was, how do you think your engaged members feel about your association? Amanda Miller, lovely first name, by the way. They feel comfortable to talk about losses as well as wins in their life. I think that's really profound, Amanda, and I'm glad that you said that. On one hand, they're coming with their genuine selves, but that with also the recognition that when we talk about experiments that didn't work, that actually helps our whole community. So I think that that's really fantastic. Okay, so we've got lots of people who have participated. How do engaged members act? Well, they're passionate, they participate, they're excited, they're proud, they're involved, they volunteer, they feel empowered, they're proactive, they're connected, they're interested, they're the ones that drive referrals. Yes, your most engaged members are the ones that are doing word of mouth. Now, I read this statistic, I think it was in one of Marketing General's benchmark, membership marketing benchmark surveys, and they don't actually ask this question anymore, but it was 2 years ago. They were asking a question about where is most of your incoming referrals coming from? Is it, advertising it? Is it your email? Is it your social media? And 80% was from word of mouth. So your most engaged members are doing the word of mouth. They're happy, appreciative, outgoing, loyal, proactive, committed, inclusive, talkative. Great list. You are more than welcome to take a screen grab of this. Now, we've made some super excellent progress today because what we're doing is we're building this common language and framework around our understanding of member engagement. And one of the things that I notice when I ask these questions and when I look at your list is how emotional engagement is. So we often describe engagement in terms of transactions. We can tell people are engaged because they register, they open our emails, they renew. But for members, when you put on your member hat, when you step into your member's shoes, engagement is a feeling or a set of feelings often. That pride, the passion, the excitement, the appreciation, that's what engagement is for them. Now, you may have noticed that this is not going to be your grandfather's webinar, and you might be wondering, why is Amanda not sticking to the usual lecture format? Well, it's because I believe that the ability to participate is engaging. And one of the things that I love about participating in virtual meetings is that I can talk with you and you can talk with me all at the same time, and you can talk with each other all at the same time. Now, when I'm keynoting on a big stage in person, I can talk to everybody, but it's really hard to get everybody at the same time to talk back to me, and they can't talk to each other. So there's something very special about the chat and virtual, and I love the chat. I think the chat is really one of the most important engagement tactics that you have at your disposal when you're doing virtual presentations. So I'm inviting you to use the chat as much as you want today. And if it makes sense for your members, you may want to encourage them to engage in events by using the chat too. Or you can incorporate other virtual platforms into your meetings. So I'm going to throw a couple of them out there, some more resources for you. And the links to them. So Mentimeter, that's what I've been using here when I've been asking questions and the word clouds have been manifesting. So that's Mentimeter. I'm using the pro version because there's lots of you. If you have a very small meeting, you can use the for free version. The pro version also allows me to brand Mentimeter. Miro is an infinite whiteboard. I love using Miro. So people can brainstorm real time and put up stickies and everybody can move their stickies around and organize them. Pickles might be one that you have not heard of. Pickles is a really fantastic platform, and it's not for all members. It's not for all professionals, but some will find it really endearing. You can ask a question and people draw their responses. It's super, super fun. I love Pickles. So this focusing on participation, I'm going to give it a caveat because it doesn't work for every event. So if you are the kind of society or professional association that is putting on a super technical course about, say, the aerodynamic demands on an aircraft fuselage, by all means, I want you to teach me the science and the math. And this is not time for a debate or a collaborative discussion. But for many other kinds of events where it's your job to bring people together to network, where people need to collaborate to solve a problem, you do want them to participate. And there's all sorts of things you can do to prime members to participate. And we're going to be playing with that during our next webinar together. It's May 11th at noon Eastern. You might want to go ahead and just pencil that into your calendar if you like what you're seeing so far. Okay, so before we can get to May 11th and the next one, we've got to catch our members' attention first. And we might be catching our members' attentions in a completely unintended way. So let's talk a little bit about online communities. Online communities are your most public demonstration of your members' culture. So we talk a lot about organizational culture, but memberships have cultures too. And they can grow up organically, or they can be molded or shaped or created. And when cultures happen organically, it's very potluck. You never know what you're going to get. But when they're intentionally molded or shaped or created, you get the chance to create the culture that benefits members the most. Now, one perhaps very common way to try to shape a member culture is to develop a code of conduct. So another question for you is, what % of your members do you think actually read codes of conduct? So go ahead, back into Mentimeter. If you moved away from Mentimeter, you can use your QR code again, or you can just hit that link that I just put in the chat. Dawn just said less than 1%. Yes. So as the votes come in right now, it looks, Sheila says, we don't have codes of conduct for members. Yeah, so yeah, and not every organization is going to have a code of conduct. I feel like organizations with online communities usually have some kind of code of conduct around that. And sometimes code of conduct or ground rules comes around when we're doing like a participatory kind of event or facilitation. One of the things that I've seen before when people are answering this question is when you have a society or association of attorneys, 100% of them read the code of conduct. So this question is variable, but most people are saying between 1 and 25%, and I expected that. Nobody loves to read the code of conduct. They're boring and they're kind of negative. And when I think of codes of conduct, or when I read them, to me, it's like, a good analogy is me telling my cat to get off the counter or table, which she's totally not allowed to be on. And so that sounds like, I say, down, Robin, down, get down, bad cat. And, nobody wants to read words like that. So my theory is that codes of conduct, not only do people not read them, they don't work very well for setting cultures. What happens here is people observe how everybody else is behaving, and then they might choose to act the same way, or they might choose to opt out. So culture is very catchy. And so what I want to do is I want to look at this idea of helping to shape our member culture strategically. And so I've got another question to ask of you right now. And that is a question for you in the chat. What kind of culture, environment, ethos would most benefit your members? What kind of culture, environment, or ethos would most benefit your members? Go ahead and drop some words in the chat. Michael says friendly. Don't worry about duplicates, just let your fingers type. Okay, so I'm reading all kinds of good stuff. Inclusiveness, positive, open, interactive, positive, one that is inclusive, welcoming, casual. What I want you to do is you might want to grab a piece of paper or a notepad and a pen, scroll up and down these words, and pick out 1 or 2 or 3 of these words that you would like your member culture to be, the kind of member culture that you think would help your members the most. So I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds to scroll up and down. Family, understanding, friendly, influential, transparent, welcoming. So scroll up and down and find 1, 2, or 3 words that you like the most, that represent the kind of culture, environment, ethos that you want. Okay. Now, once you've done that, I have another question for you. And that is you, your staff, your fellow staff members, your peers, board members, other leaders of your organization. Oh, I will definitely, when we go back into Mentomere, I will definitely give you that code again. Thank you, CT. I will do that. For now, what I would love for you to do is answer this question in the chat, which is what kinds of behaviors will help us create the type of culture, environment, ethos? So what kind of behaviors do you think will help mold and shape that culture that you really want to have? So James said excited about the future. So excited, yes. What other? Professionalism, less negativity, personal outreach, helpful, good communication, introductions, conversation, participation, knowledgeable, encouraging. Okay, so there's some really good stuff here. Okay, so now you can scroll up and down and maybe pick out a few of the behaviors that you think could help you mold, create the culture that you want to create. Now, the reason why I'm asking you to write down some words is I have kind of a framework, and I'm going to drop this framework into the chat for you. You can copy it out of the chat if you want, copy it down. So what you would do is you would take your one, two, or three words that you selected last and put them in the first one, two, or three spaces, and then the one, two, or three words that you selected first and put them into the last one, two, or three stages. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a statement for yourself or your staff or your other volunteer leaders. And the statement could go something like this, and it might need to be, massaged a little bit. Let's encourage everyone to adopt, say, a sense of excitement and good skills in communication and a sense of energy to create a culture that is open and friendly and inclusive. Now, I just sort of picked words out of random, but you can see when that you can pick the right words that support each other. What I've seen people do before, some past clients, is they'll actually print this out and they'll tack it up by their desk. So this is a great statement that you can keep top of mind as you model your member culture that will help benefit everybody the most. So when I say model, you can look at your statement, you can look at your three words about how you want to kind of engage with your members. And you can say, okay, today I'm going to be kind, open, and generous. And before you start a webinar, before you pick up the phone, before you write that email, just get those, one, two, or three words into your mind, and that really helps you shape the tone of the way that you're greeting them and coming into that space with them. Now, one story I hear a lot in my research is members say, I joined and I started to get these digests from the online community, and the tone and the content of some of the threads felt slightly hostile. And I decided then and there that I wasn't going to participate. Now, we, of course, do not want that to happen. And that's why it's so important to have an online community that has moderators, and why it's so important for the community leaders to model the culture that they want to see for everyone else. So if you've got volunteer welcomers in your events, if you've got, say, volunteer chat ambassadors, if you've got online community moderators, talk to them about this. Talk to them about the behaviors that you're modeling for everyone else. And so that's the culture part that I think is super, super important. Okay. Let's start talking about the power of first impressions. So we've been talking about member and community culture, and I want to dive into the science of first impressions because that's another just intention grabbing thing where if the first impression is great, yay, you've grabbed their attention. And if the first impression is not so great, you might have grabbed their attention, but not in the way we want to be grabbing their attention. So my plan is I am going to give you a super quickie 4-minute tutorial on the literal mountains of research on first impressions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attempt to distill 1 week of my deep dive into the scientific rabbit hole of scientific research on first impressions. And I'm going to highlight 4 key ideas in about 4 minutes that I think will be most interesting for you to work with. So the first idea is that there have been approximately 1 bazillion, and I mean that in the most scientific term ever, 1 bazillion research studies trying once and for all to quantitatively prove how long it takes to form a first impression. And generally speaking, experts have pegged the time somewhere around 7 seconds. But it might be as quick as 1/10 of a second. This is kind of amazing. So the first time your members lay eyes on your website, the moment they walk through the door of one of your events, the first time they read an email, when they see your signage, all of those things, all of the first impressions, they are very, very, very quickly cataloging that as a first impression and making some judgments about it. And they do that within 7 seconds, but maybe as fast as 1/10 of a second. So you can imagine, your members flipping to your website or prospective members going to your website, and they get a first impression in about 7 seconds, which I think is pretty darn fast. The second point about the research is first impressions that last months or a lifetime. So they make these snap judgments based on their first impression. And these snap judgments that they make, good or bad or otherwise, last for a very long time. Now, I've found this to be the case with my research with members. So when I would ask lots of questions around, when did you realize that the organization was of value to you? What was your first impression of the organization? And members would call up these first impression stories with amazing clarity, even if it happened 20 years ago, which I think is pretty amazing. And they would say things like, oh, I remember my, the first local meeting I went to. I remember my first annual conference. I remember that somebody called me. I remember that first chapter meeting. And I remember that everybody was so friendly. And that's, that just gives you an example. That's just the kind of organization this is. So, first impressions, we categorize them and store them in our memory for a long, long time. Third, the first impressions are very difficult to change, and some studies say that they're impossible to change. So if I have a very strong first impression and later I found out that my judgment of my first impression was completely wrong, my brain will still want to hold tight to that first impression. I'll have a really hard time moving away from that first impression. So that's third. Fourth, first impressions influence decisions later on. So for example, if a new member's first impression is that everyone is friendly and generous and open, they are much more likely to decide to be friendly, generous, and open themselves. So that is pretty much a crash course in everything you need to know about first impressions. They are powerful, they are fast, they stick, and they color members' subsequent interactions. So that's the brain science right there. Now, one of the most powerful ways to ensure members engage is to try to create some first impressions for them, or try to create or curate or mold some great first impressions for them. But before we do that, I want to brainstorm where first impressions happen. And we are going to go back to Mentimeter. And I think it was CT who said, oh, give me that link again. I moved away, which is no problem. What you can do right now is you can either go to menti.com and enter the code, which is 875-87105, or go ahead and click into that link. And what I want you to do now is I want you to start answering this when do members start having first impressions of our organizations? Don't worry about duplicates, but I'm using a different format here because it'll let you write a comment, not just a single word as in the word cloud. So I'm going to start showing our answers. Oh, this is interesting. Somebody said through word of mouth. Yeah, very hard. If you're a staff person, it's very, very hard to control word of mouth for sure as a first impression. Somebody said when they receive an email. Let's see, after they make their payment, there's phone calls, walk-in visits, social media. I'm gonna start scrolling through these because there's so many good ones. And feel free to take screen grabs whenever you want. Referrals, first impressions begin before they become members. Yes, you're absolutely right. When they walk through our doors, when they're requesting membership information at their very first event. Let's see, online, word of mouth or any of our events from the first phone call through gossip. Yeah, they're having a first impression when there's some gossip. Online reviews when they hear our name. So yes, 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 yes to all of these. So there's a couple of things that you can do with this list. And one is, because we've got this huge, big, long list here, is you can go through this list and you can figure out where there might be some weakness in your first impressions. Members or prospective members are having all of these first impressions, and do you feel like some of these first impressions might be happening by chance and maybe they're not as good as you would like them to be? And if that is the case, you can write that down and think about how to re-engineer that first impression. So this is really, really great. I think we've got a lot of very good stuff here. Social media platform. The second thing that we can do with this list is we can make sure, especially for new members, that everybody is getting a nice warm welcome. So we talked about all of the first impressions when they first attend an event, when they get a phone call, when they get the first email, when they log in for the first time. And so another attention getting tactic is to give people, your new members, prospective members, this genuine warm welcome. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot lately is when we get to know our members really well and they come to events, we're so happy to see them because we know them. They're like friends, they're like family. And sometimes it's the longtime members that get the warmest welcomes and the new members don't. And that's a first impression for new members. They say, maybe this is an exclusive group. Maybe they're cliquish, maybe they're whatever. And so to the extent possible, and I see somebody just wrote, we have a membership committee that helps with this process, which is fantastic. And it's important that the membership committee understands the culture you're trying to build and also understands that they might have this bias to welcoming their friends more heartily than they're welcoming new members. So it's just something to keep in mind. So here's another story from the research. A first-time attendee is in registration line for the annual conference, and they are super pleasantly surprised when they're warmly greeted and maybe even chatted up by a welcoming team. Somebody was just talking about a membership committee that does that. So a welcoming team, or the person who, at registration hands out the badges, or there's somebody circulating through the lines. And so they get this very lovely warm welcome. And our new member is so buoyed by this experience, they go off and they start talking or taking the initiative to themselves to extend themselves to other attendees during breaks and the lunch, and they start making friends. So remember when I said that first impressions stick with people, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, those folks will often share stories just like this. They had these these wonderful first impressions. These first impressions help them maybe climb out of their bubble a little bit and connect with other people. And those people are still friends today. So again, I'm gonna just scroll through our lovely list here. And you can take some screen grabs if you want. And think about how you can marry warm welcomes with as many of these first impressions as you possibly can. And I see some really great chat going on in the chat right now. So let me go take a look. So Cindy says our ambassadors help with welcoming new and potential members by introducing them around. Lovely. What a warm welcome. Okay, Cindy, I've got to tag off on this because when I started my business almost exactly 10 years ago today, I knew I wanted to do public speaking and I wanted to not get the jitters. So I found myself a Toastmasters club. And what this particular club did is they would station people like that around the door. And when a newer prospective member would come in, they would, the person would introduce themselves to you and they'd chat with you while they took you around the room and said, here's the bagels and orange juice. Now let me help you find a seat. And I'm going to introduce you to the person that I just sat you next to. And it was such a wonderful, warm welcome because there was no awkwardness of, what do I do and where do I go and what do I expect? And once I sat down, people all around me started talking with me. They had just the best culture that way. I love that you are sharing all of these wonderful ideas. Okay, so time is ticking away, and I better move on because I'm going to get stuck on first impressions and culture and warm welcomes, and I want to make sure to get you just lots and lots of stuff. So since we're talking about new members, I have a free resource for you. It's called the New Member Engagement Study. It's the New Member Engagement Study. And it is a piece of research that I conducted in partnership with my partners, Dynamic Benchmarking. They're this really cool benchmarking company. And you can download your own free copy, and I just put the link for you in the chat. So go ahead, download that copy. I think it's about 48 pages. Really, I'm biased. I should tell you, I'm totally biased. But there's a lot of, I think, some really interesting concepts in there for you to use. So let me just go through a couple of the more interesting ones right now. And that is, so we had 307 member organizations participate. So lots of different kinds, small, medium, large, global, national, local, regional, all different kinds of professionals participated in this, but 307 total. And of the 307 member organizations that participated, 71 noted how worried that they were that members join and then they never use their benefits. Why is this happening? Why are 71 of our participants saying that members join and then never use their benefits? And if you look through your metrics, you might see the same thing. I know when I was the director of membership and marketing for a national association, there was this group of people who joined and they never logged in. They didn't read their emails. Of course, they never came to an event. They didn't do anything, and it would make me crazy. Why would they do this? Well, what I have figured out after all of my hundreds and hundreds of member interviews, that it's email. It's email gets in the way. So if you are thinking about email, which is probably your number one channel of communication between you and your members, we can train them with the first 3 emails to either ignore us or to engage. And the ubiquitous welcome email that has all of the lists that's, paragraphs and paragraphs long, welcome to our organization. You now have access to these benefits and all of these events and all of this content and all of this research. When we list all of that out, members see that long list and they say, oh my gosh, I don't have time to click into any of these things. Not only do I not have time to click into any of these things, I don't have time to figure out which things I should be clicking into. So I want you to think about, especially with your first 3 welcome emails or your first welcome email, make it quick, make it fun, make it lighthearted, try to get them some value and just, a really quick 1 minute. And so it might just be that all you can manage to get out is an invite for a phone call or an invite for a virtual onboarding event. So, think about that. There's a lot more information right there in the new member engagement study. The second thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, because I think this is kind of interesting, is the comparison of tactics. And so we surveyed 15 new member engagement tactics, and you can see email, absolutely ubiquitous. Almost everybody uses email to onboard their new members. And there are some things that are downtrending. So the purple line, if you can't see it, is 2008 data. And then 4 years later in 2022, so last year, we redid this survey and we wanted to compare how onboarding programs have been changing over the years. So you see some things trending up and some things trending down. So the analog stuff like letters and welcome kits definitely trending down, but I am super excited about some of the things that are trending up. Like, so people were talking in the chat about new member engagement committees, new member engagement ambassadors, using chapters or special interest groups to do onboarding. That's really interesting. Another thing that I'm really excited about is this whole idea of virtual orientation events. No longer onboarding webinars, but virtual orientation events are very responsive to the people who logged in. And they're much more a facilitated conversation where new members get to meet each other. Again, much more information about that in the event. Now, in the research. Okay, I want to ask because I feel like we've covered a ton of ground today, and I am so curious about what you might want to take from our discussion and start applying. So we're going to head right back into Mentimeter again. I'll drop in that link. You can also go back to the website by typing it in. And this time what you do is you actually start ranking things. So if I have it right, you can slide things up and down. And in order the engagement tactics you think you might want to try for your particular membership. So the choices are icebreakers. Would you like to try a super active chat discussion for online events? And you might already be doing some of these things, so you can still, rank them in there. Would you like to try Mentimeter, Slido? Another competitor to Mentimeter is Slido. There's another one too, and I forget its name. I had a hard time getting it working. It's probably good that I forgot its name. Do you want to focus on first impressions? Do you want to do warm welcomes? Would you like to focus on modeling community culture? I think for purposes of today, you might want to go ahead. You can totally take a screen grab of this if you want, but you might want to also go ahead and grab your pen and paper again and write down the item that you ranked first. So just so you remember to try it soon. And I'm so glad to see you all focusing on warm welcomes, because that's one of those engagement tactics that you can just slide in there in the course of doing everything that you're already also doing. It doesn't take a lot of extra time. But let me take a look at this. Okay, so most people are wanting to focus on warm welcomes, focusing on first impressions, modeling community culture. I'm so glad some of you picked modeling community culture. Icebreakers, you want to try Mentimeter and then try a super active chat. The super active chat kind of depends on what kind of membership you have. And some of you are probably back in person, so you're not doing as many virtual events anymore. Okay, so thank you so much for answering that poll for me. You have been such a super collaborative, creative, wonderful group today. And I really loved collaborating with you on all of these concepts. I am going to be back 1 month from today to talk more about member engagement and priming members for participation. So if you enjoyed working side by side with your peers during today's event, put a hold on your calendar for May 11th at 12 Eastern, 11 Central, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific. If you want more ideas from me, let me drop a couple of links for you here in the chat. So you can find me at amandaleekaiser.com. My middle name is spelled a little bit weird. It's pronounced Lee, but it's Lea. But you can find me at amandaleekaiser.com. I have a weekly newsletter, and I share every week ideas from the book, ideas that I'm experimenting with, things that I'm playing with, engagement ideas that are top of mind for me. And I see you've got some of you, Jeffrey, you got my book last week. Thank you, thank you. So I've got this new book. It's called Elevating Engagement. Amy mentioned it at the beginning. You can go ahead and scan that QR code. It'll take you right to Amazon, and I'll drop the link right in the chat as well. So it's not just available on Amazon. So if we have people who are logging in from around the world, it's really available at any virtual bookseller worldwide. So you can also go to my website, click book, and there's a place there where it'll tell you all of the online distributors like Barnes and Noble and all of these other ones that are not Amazon if you are not an Amazon customer. So, okay, so thank you again for all of your ideas. Thank you for playing in the chat. Thank you for your energy, your enthusiasm, and thanks so much to Amy and for her team at GrowthZone for inviting me to speak today. And with that, Amy, I'm going to hand it back to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Amanda. That was so great. I love how you did that. You had engagement in the webinar about engagement. That was awesome. I expected nothing less. Again, thank you all for attending. And if you're not familiar with GrowthZone, you can go to our website, GrowthZone.